And welcome back. Our program today, we're talking about sacred sex, the true art of making love. And our second guest is a man called Trevor Gray. Please welcome Trevor. Hi Trevor, thank you.
Hi Robyn, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely welcome. Gee, I could do a line there,
That's
couldn't
it.
I?
Hi, Trevor.
Some familiar faces.
And thank you so much for being on the show with Martina.
Pleasure, pleasure.
Very interesting subject.
Fantastic. Yeah, beautiful subject.
And having you on, we're obviously going to be hear more about the masculine side of Tantra. We've heard, obviously, from Martina, the more feminine side. Yeah. Firstly, though, how did you move into Tantra sex? What was the journey for you?
Sex.
That's what you call a really blokey answer, isn't it, Martina? Because I know when you and I were talking, you know, a little while back when we first met, your childhood, you were rather a rebellious teenager.
Absolutely.
You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Blue-collar family, had a father that liked to drink and taught me his wily ways, and so I rebelled against his dominance in my life from a young age up until for 20 years, 25 years.
And your mum?
Mum had a pretty rough childhood. She didn't have a blessed life, so the two of them were a bit of a mismatch as far as their intimacy and their love making, which at some level I probably knew about. I could feel it.
Okay. Now, in some of our previous shows, you know, we've talked about all different things such as, you know, parenting for a peaceful world, personal development, etc. And of course, it's never about blaming parents.
No.
And one of the things we had talked about in other shows is about the Hopi Indians say that as we heal ourselves, we heal 5 generations back.
Absolutely.
So for you, it sounds like you were very aware that the pain that your parents had in their childhood and took into adulthood,
massive.
you did the same.
Massive, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult for Mum to show affection in her interactions with not only my father, but with us as kids.
Okay.
And Dad came from that similar family as well, that it wasn't, you know, talking about sex, about your emotions, about your feelings was, you know, you didn't do that. You know, Dad did it at the pub and Mum did it at the golf club, possibly, if at all. So they both died at a young age as a result of bottling up those emotions.
In fact, you just lost your dad recently, didn't you?
Yeah, just recently, yeah.
So for you, no parents anymore?
No, yeah.
How was that for you in your life?
It was full on. It's a full on experience. I mean, it's been just almost 2 months since Dad died. And without Tantra and without that ceremony and the ritual that's associated with it, not only in lovemaking, but just in life generally, allowed me to actually meet him not just as my father, but as a man who was my elder and who was my teacher. He was the man that taught me to fish, that taught me to play cricket, that taught me how to love women, as much as it might have been a little misguided at times. He actually taught me the beauty of, you know, of a cold beer, of, you know, a hard day's work. You know, these were the things that he really instilled in me that allows me to love the things in life that I love,
Trev, that's beautiful. It's so actually beautiful hearing that come from a man about their dad. It really is. So your rebellious teenagehood, I mean, you got in some trouble, didn't you?
Heaps.
Yep.
Yeah,
You want to share just a twitch?
I was arrested 3 times, everything from drunk and disorderly to smashing my car and reporting it stolen. And it happened to be around the corner from a police station wrapped around a telegraph pole. And I wandered in 2 parts drunk and said, my car's been stolen. And getting in fights with bouncers in nightclubs, being thrown downstairs, and some fairly unpleasant stuff.
Okay, and then you had you were married?
Married, yes.
And that was a bit of a...
The sex, drugs and rock and roll, really, from about the age of 25. I met my ex-wife at 21 across a smoky bar, and our eyes locked, and we were together for almost 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a rather destructive relationship.
It was.
There was a lot of love?
Yeah, there was a lot of love, but we were very dysfunctional. I had my family history that I was bringing into it. She had hers, and we'd find moments to connect, and we didn't know how to repeat that. There was no way of, it was just one of those things that happened. During that time that we were together, we did the sex, drugs and rock and roll pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then divorce?
Then divorced. I went back and did my sex, drugs and rock and roll as a single man for another 5 years after that. Yeah.
So what were the circumstances and when did you start moving into personal development? What was the trigger?
Yeah, it was tax.
Okay.
I actually was, I received a bill from the taxation department for about $1,500, and someone in the gym was talking about ways of minimising and reducing your tax. So that's got to be me. So I actually signed up for a one-day course to find out how to reduce my tax. It was a personal growth company.
Which you didn't know?
I had no idea.
Oh.
And on the day they gave away, it was very structured in its financial advice that it gave, but on the day they gave away a 3-day intensive that was all personal growth. And I won it on the day, so it was kind of like, thou shalt, you know.
So what was your profession at that time?
I was an engineer. I was a motor mechanic originally and went back and studied for 7 years part-time to do an engineering part. I was working towards a degree, but I didn't quite get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So then you did the 3-day intensive?
Did the 3-day intensive. Kind of blew my world apart thinking, my God, there's more to this than engineering and, you know, slaving away. And it was just that moment, that epiphany that Martina was talking about, where you just realise that there's more to life and there's more within me that needs to be expressed in this life than just going through the blue-collar worker, getting into a marriage. It may not be exactly the relationship that you want, but that's just what you do, have kids.
So then, after the 3-day workshop?
I actually went back and did it again because if you go back and did it again, you became part of the assistance team, which was an amazing team of individuals that were just very committed to their growth and living more in the world, you know, through their own truth. So I actually went back and did the program again.
How many times?
I actually did it I did it twice as a participant and 8 times as an assistant. Yeah, so once a month for 8 months.
Okay. And then, what was the next step?
I went and did sex, drugs and rock and roll again. Just to make sure I didn't miss anything the first 2 times. You know?
What star sign are you?
I'm a Virgo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So when you do it well.
I do, yeah. Look, I had a motto that was go hard or go home. And, you know, sometimes it'd take me 2 or 3 days to get home.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
So I didn't leave anything unturned as to what, you know, when I got to that point of knowing that I'd had enough, I definitely had enough.
Okay, so you do thoroughly well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so after the 3rd lot of sex, drugs and rock and roll, then what?
A friend of mine said to me, introduced me to a book that was called The Way of the Superior Man by a man called David Dieter. And I read this book and I went, that's pretty wild. And then I ended up doing a Tantra workshop. She suggested, I said, now what? That's great, how the hell do you do it? And so I ended up doing a Tantra workshop in Byron Bay. The first time, there was one running in Sydney that was a weekend. And the first time I got onto a website and looked at it and I thought, there's no way I'm going to this thing. Bring a cushion, bring a candle, bring a this, and I'm going, you've got to be out of your mind. So I didn't do it. And then 6 months later, I actually went and did a 7-day intensive that changed my life. I mean, it just really just sat me on my butt and just made me really look and feel what I was here to do in my life, in that moment. And that was when I discovered Tantra and the depth of it that it offered to me in my life. And out of that came meditation groups, tantric energy groups that I run once a month, and also men's groups. When
did you start doing the monthly meditation type Tantra?
Yeah, probably about 2002, I guess 2001, 2002. It started out with a whole lot of people that I'd met from Byron and around Australia that were located in Sydney, and we wanted to get together and do some regular practices. Okay. Yeah, some different breathing exercises and energy practices and meditations.
Okay. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to find out a little bit more about Trevor and his workshop, and also perhaps have a discussion with both of these people about the masculine, feminine in Tantra and sacred sex. Back with you soon.